Right. SF6 has been out for more than a week now, so you should already know how to play Zangief. However, I'm not just gonna let you watch this channel without knowing the goddamn wrestling references that make this guy a goddamn wrestler. I trained to be a wrestler for like a year before quitting due to personal reasons and the facility sucking so much ass. So I know the goddamn business, brother. I know the basic moves and how to do them and how to take them, why they're done a certain way. So look, he has 5 basic grabs and they're all bowler. His neutral grab is the basic body slam. Yeah, that's right. This is a body slam. This is a fucking splash. In every bit of media I see, it's like, oh, here he comes with the body slam. It's not. He's not fucking slamming anything. He's splashing on them. It's a splash. Outside of that note, on his scoop slam, even Ken knows how to be a good worker. You see that shit. He puts his hand on Geef's torso. Usually you put it on the thigh for maximum support, but I understand that it'd be fucking difficult when you have stylized builds like these. The main alterations to these moves is that the enemy doesn't know how to bump despite knowing how to help with the lift. That's what makes it look impactful. Now, if you hold the buttons down, Geef will sweep his leg over the opponent's face to let them know an elbow drop is coming and, usually, to put their arms in the catching position so that they don't take too much real hurt. Ken doesn't know the fucking business, so he doesn't know to do that and receives multiple well-earned fractured ribs. This is also likely a reference to The Rock and the end of his people's elbow where he'd never failed to sweep the leg over the opponent's face. The next grab is what happens when you hold the 4 position. He does a power slam. Usually, nowadays, you'd see this done by Dustin Rhodes as a counter to someone running at him. I'd also say Randy Orton, but ooh. There's not actually too much kayfabe about this move besides the fact that Geef makes sure Ken lands with a flat back as to not break his fucking neck by underturning. He also doesn't actually land his weight on Ken either, using his elbows and thighs to make it look like he does, because that's kayfabe, brother! Here's the grab that's done from the number 1 position. The classic DDT, invented by Jake the Snake Roberts. This has all the kayfabe in the world built into it. I also appreciate that Geef kicks the midsection. It's way more believable than just grabbing them from standing, which nobody does. Look, he brings his leg back and swings it. Now you're probably thinking, that's the animators trying to add impact. Well, wrestlers do it in real life too to exaggerate impact. The overlap between wrestlers and animators is astonishing. With how they both want to make the most clear and over-the-top movements possible to sell the impact of the movements. Side tangent done, he does this to let Ken know that he's going to drop. Usually a wrestler would do this with the leg on the side of where the captured head is, so that they can see it. But you know, animation, clarity, all that. So he does it with the wrong leg. Luckily enough, good guy Geef knows how to keep it kayfabe, brother! He makes sure to tap Ken's back just before he goes back, to let Ken know to drop. Now Ken here shows off quite a nice sell as he floats over. This is done in real life too, because you're not actually cracking the opponent's skull. Ken's actually saved by Geef's huge arms, allowing him to do this little maneuver completely safely. The grab in the number 2 position is the standard vertical suplex, which is the first move I ever learned. There's actually not much to talk about here other than the fact that it's kept kayfabe once again, brother! Work yourself into a shoot! You get a tiny glimpse into Ken assisting Geef by putting his hand on Geef's side to help balance, so that they can both land as safely as possible. The 3 position grab is a motherfucking spinebuster, and a double A Arn Anderson would be proud. There's not much work for Ken to do here, but Geef manages to lift him up high enough in order to sweep his leg for extra effect. The 6 position grab is the ever famous German suplex. There is absolutely nothing kayfabe about this one, brother. Ken doesn't push off of Geef's arms to make sure that he lands a safe distance away and on his back. Geef just drops him on his fucking head. If someone did this in a real wrestling match, legitimately, you'd probably be in the hospital. Here's a quick break from the grabs to talk about some normals. All of Geef's standing kicks are super wrestler-like, attempting to connect with your whole shin to increase the surface area and lessen the impact. You'll also notice that none of them follow through. That's because Geef is a good worker and he doesn't want to do stiff strikes on his dance partner. Yo, editing Elling here. I just noticed Zangief slaps his thigh. Yo! This is another one of those stomp things to make the sound better, where, you know, you're about to kick someone, you go, and then it sounds really good when it connects. It's like you just slap them with your fucking foot. Zangief is a genius! His high kick specifically reminds me of the chick kick that Trish Stratus used to do, but it's a kick favoured among strikers for an easy spot to knock down the opponent to maybe set up for a top rope finisher or to take a breather. Zangief's headbutt is also keeping it kayfabe. He's actually aiming so low to headbutt the chest or shoulder of the opponent as not to concuss the both of them. Standing medium is the machine gun chops. It's a bit of mangled kayfabe here, but I also get that probably they couldn't put this anywhere else. When Zangief chops, he stamps his foot. Usually, in wrestling, when you're doing strikes, you stomp the mat to make more of a noise and make your hits sound more impactful. The louder the ring, the crunchier the hits. Problem is, you don't need to do that with chops, as you're looking to slap their chest with as much surface area as possible to make the loudest possible slapping noise. His 6HK is this kick, which is completely ineffective in a real fight, hence why it's part of Zangief's moveset. RVD used to do something like this, where he'd set the guy up on the fucking rail and then do this to guillotine them off. 3 medium punch is a hell stab, which is a way sped up version of a move Kane used to do. While we know nowadays that the man who played Kane is a fucking dumbass, we can still appreciate that his gimmick was cool until it wasn't. Man, he fell off. Anyway, the hell stab is supposed to be an uppercut slap. They altered it to be more of a stab in this game, purely because it looks way better like that in gameplay. I should stress that the double lariat is fucking stupid and isn't even a lariat. The startup even has Zangief fucking elbowing you. It's not a lariat, he does that later. As we went over earlier, Zangief's jumping down heavy punch is a splash. Another aerial attack that Zangief seems to have that is a wrestling reference is his heavy kick in the air. It's a drop kick. When it's uncharged, it's any old regular drop kick that you'd see from any old wrestler. If you charge it, it gains a bunch of wrestling references. If you charge it as soon as you jump, Zangief will get a lot more height, definitely referencing jumping from the top rope to gain more height. If he successfully lands it, he will pop off of them, which is usually something you'd see from someone like, I don't know, Will Ospreay or someone. Usually it's a lot less exaggerated than this. On the opponent's side, when this charged dropkick hits, it turns into a shotgun dropkick, where it puts them directly into the corner, just like something Finn Balor would do, for example. Back to grabs. Zangief counter is an exaggerated version of the Dragon Screw leg whip, which, usually, you grab their ankle and twist it into the mat. It's actually quite a strong and protected move, sold quite harshly if it's used. In this game, however, it's fucking stupid. It doesn't even work if the enemy's too close. He spins and it makes it look like you're in an alpha counter and the opponent lands on their back somehow. I hate this move so fucking much. Siberian Express from afar isn't fucking real. This shitty move doesn't exist. He does a double leg sweep takedown but also stomps your arms and crushes your neck. It looks weak as fuck. Especially when it turns into this up close. Double German suplex is a combo of 2 moves, the German suplex and the usually done separately roll-through German suplex, popularized in recent memory by Chad Gable. Once again though, no kayfabe here. Zangief offers no protection to anyone and it looks more like the ninja drop than anything from this angle. Zangief's Borscht Dynamite is a spinning tombstone pile driver. Usually the opponent is supposed to tuck their head in as to not fucking die, but hey, Ken is green, so never mind. This move was originally popularized by The Undertaker, and there is a spinning variant that Kazuchika Okada does in real life in a desperate pinch. Here's Zangief's iconic spinning pile driver. Nothing about this is accurate at all, which is a great thing because it looks like it really hurts. Usually you lift them up, then drop back to spike them on the brain. Obviously you don't actually do that, you keep their shoulders on your thighs in order to save their head from actually touching the mat. Here, Zangief doesn't give a shit. He spreads his legs as wide as he can, and you can watch the opponent's neck crack into the floor. A very interesting detail is that Zangief tucks his legs on the way up and unfurls them on the way down. This isn't a reference to anything, I think it's just more aerodynamic like that. On the EX version, when he grabs you in for it, he does a little signal to the crowd where he waves his finger around. This is a very common wrestling hand sign that you'll probably see when people are going for usually some sort of finishing move. Usually, it's not I'm going to spinning pile driver them, it's usually people on the top rope will spin their hands in the air if they're going to go for a 720 splash or something like that, right? Zangief really wants to let you know that this spinning pile driver is gonna hurt, and that he is almighty! A small break before the supers, Zangief's idle and taunts. His forward taunt is a show of respect, encouraging fans to clap for the opponent. His crouch is him signaling that he's gonna win the world championship by miming a belt around his waist, and his back taunt says, "Just bring it!" which is a line popularized by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. His idle pose has him reach out his hand and wiggle his fingers. This is done by wrestlers to signal a test of strength, where wrestlers both lock knuckles and do that game Peanuts, if you've ever heard of that. Super 1 is a combination reference of a lot of things. Number 1, powerbombs make great catching moves. Usually the wrestler doesn't jump up to catch the opponent, but hey, we can't risk Zangief having another fucking counter. 2. The powerbomb lift back up was originally popularized by Chris Jericho, if I'm remembering correctly, and the finish is what WWE fans would call a Batista bomb, but everyone else would call a Liger bomb, referencing possibly the most famous Japanese wrestler ever, Jushin Thunder Liger. The first bomb is super not kayfabe. It's completely unguided and puts Ken on his neck. The second one is completely guided and flat to make up for it, and it looks incredible. Super 2. The Cyclone is bullshit, and you could probably figure that out by yourself, but they made it lead into a grab in this game. This is probably one of the most powerful finishing moves belonging to one of the most powerful wrestlers ever. This is Bill Goldberg's jackhammer, as Zangief correctly calls out. Zangief once again keeps it kayfabe in the same way as the power slam, using his legs and elbows to make sure he doesn't land his entire body weight on his opponent. Ken is also put down completely flat to ensure he doesn't risk any neck injury. And finally, his level 3 has him grab the opponent's head and deliver a stiff as fuck lariat to Ken's face. Usually, you would deliver the lariat to their chest with a slight bend to maximize the surface area. Here, Zangief fucking tenses up his forearm and smashes Ken in his face. Then he kicks the guy to set them up for the pile driver, which is how you should do it. Then he does the same real-ass neck-crunching pile driver from the regular versions. It's worth noting that his critical art version has entrance pyro go off in the background. These are fire plumes, and very, very common in big wrestling entrances. Most famously in The Undertaker's entrances. And finally, Zangief does the only instance of a fireman's carry in his whole moveset and performs an exaggerated version of the F5, Brock Lesnar's finishing move, to then jump in the air and then hit them with his ultimate pile driver that super mega kills them. And that's all of Zangief's wrestling references in this game. This might be the longest non-gameplay video I post, so I hope you enjoyed it. Lariat, screw pile driver to receive notifications, and remember, do a kayfabe.